Welcome back. In recent times, we've seen some rally on the global oil market. Well, that market have so far been generally supported by production cut led by the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and Russia that started in January last year and is set to last through 2018. But what is the outlook like for the market in the new year? Let's talk to Adim Okwesa, research analyst with Financial Derivatives Company. Good afternoon, Adim. Thank you very much for joining us. Right, we've seen the trend in oil prices, and of course, a lot of analysts believe that this bull run will perhaps bottom out this year. What do you see?
Like, some people want this party to end. I don't think so. I think there'll be a correction, but not anytime soon. Yes, oil prices are responding to strong compliance and the resulting drawdown in crude inventories. But I think the greater influence is geopolitics. We have rising political uncertainty extremely high in Iran. We have this proxy between Saudi and Iran. And we also have this Saudi-led impasse between the Saudi-led coalition and Qatar. So geopolitics will be at the forefront, and that should keep oil prices at this current level. Another reason is that shale production has disappointed. This week, data came out and said U.S. production shrunk to the lowest point since October 2017. And U.S. rigs also declined last week, implying that activity is rather lackluster at this point, which is kind of odd. So as a result of this dynamic, I think this rally would last at least for a couple of weeks. Yes. Now,
you talked about some people wanting this party to come to an end, and yes, that's some oil producers yes, who have been complaining about the oil prices. Just wondering why. Now, how beneficial is this current oil prices to producers?
Well, I think it's beneficial and at the same time detrimental to oil producers, and you can understand why. But it's kind of shocking that oil producers are complaining about high oil
that's
prices,
an irony, you know.
to be honest. But I think Iran came out this week saying that this current oil price is not conducive to maintaining its interest, because it only helps shale producers, and which would ultimately come back and bite OPEC. We also had a representative from UAE saying that this charge towards $70 per barrel is kind of an illusion because it's counterproductive, because it will just create a more incentive for producers to cheat, and that might just raise the gains they have made so far since 2016. So you can see why. And also, if you bring it back home, Nigeria, oil prices is good for Nigeria's budget, yeah, exchange rate stability, external reserves. But at the flip side, the cost of refined oil will just continue increasing. At $60, all marketers are complaining. So at $70, it would be a nightmare. So
okay. So now, what we're seeing, what key risk factors do you see in the new year in the short to medium term?
Well, I think the immediate risk will be an increase in U.S. crude stockpiles. I think U.S. crude stockpiles have been declining because of extreme weather conditions, severe weather conditions. But I think the forecast is for weather conditions to improve in, let's say, next week, 2 weeks' time. So when weather conditions improve, I don't think U.S. crude stockpiles will continue drawing down. The second short-term risk is shale production. I think if prices continue to rise, shale producers will drill faster, and because they want to exploit greater profitability. So those are the short-term risks. If in the long term, I think when this OPEC deal ends and producers are allowed to produce at will, they would want to increase production to recover their market share, and that would cause supply to jump and prices to fall. So
okay, so generally, what does the outlook look like for oil prices?
That's a difficult question to ask, because there are lots of uncertainties. Uncertainties like, will there be supply disruptions in Nigeria, Iran, Venezuela? What is the U.S. going to do to Iran? Will they impose sanctions on Iran? But I think this interplay between shale production and OPEC will continue to last. So I think that would keep prices range-bound between $65 and $75.
So we're not likely to see it go above 80?
No, I don't think so. I think the shale will offset that.
Okay,
So.
okay, let's just keep our fingers crossed.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Adim,
Thank you,
for your
Chineze.
time. Adim Okwesa is one of the research analysts with Financial Derivatives Company. We move on now in Somalia. After years of conflict, that country is eager to revive its collapsed tourism sector with an aim to become one of Africa's top tourist destinations. The country has continental Africa's longest and least policed coastline, but decades of war at the hands of clan militias as well as an insurgency by Al-Qaeda-linked militants. Al-Shabaab, famine and maritime piracy have battered the country's economy over the years.
Somalia's once architecturally beautiful coastal capital lies next to beaches and waters that prompt many visitors to remark on its tourism potential as they fly in. But since the 1991 fall of a military dictator plunged the country into anarchy, its beaches have instead seen militia in battle wagons racing over sand dunes on their way to war. An African Union force has been fighting against Al-Shabaab insurgents and has clawed back control of most of Somalia's main towns and cities since the militants were driven out of Mogadishu from 2010. But it's overstretched and funding is a constant challenge.
The ecotourism, the natural tourism that we have, the areas that the tourists still can go is the beaches. Somalia reach of the longest coastline in Africa facing the Indian Ocean. At the same time, we have where the river and the sea joins in Gobwin, Kismayo, near to Kismayo. And by Debo also we have waterfalls. We have in Bosaso hot spring. We have caves. We have the white sand.
The government is banking on relatively improved security to lure tourists as part of efforts to rebuild continue. While still in its nascent stages, the tourism sector is being touted as a potential catalyst for significant economic growth and employment in coming years. Well, that prospect received a boost last September when Somalia was admitted as the 157th member of the United Nations World Tourism Organization at the organization's General Assembly meeting in Chengdu, China. The UNWTO helps destinations position themselves in global tourism markets. For over 20 years, the only foreigners visiting Somalia have mainly been diplomats and aid workers. Though still modest, the number of tourists arriving from Europe, Asia and the United States has been on the rise in recent months.
We've been hosting a lot of people from the EU continent and the US and the Asia also. So this week, we also the first ever Singaporean citizen in our country, which gives us another pleasure.
What we are working is that to let the local people understand the value of this industry. Gradually, we are going to take up to the national level that Somalia, to announce that it's officially tourism destination. Somalia is ready to welcome the world. Somalia is in the developing stage. Somalia is ready to host, the events and conferences, part of the continent and globally.
Over 150 travel agencies currently operate worldwide, while foreign airlines operate regular flights to the capital, Mogadishu, from Istanbul and Nairobi.
And with that report on Somalia tourism, we draw the curtain on today's edition of the program. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Chimezie Obi Iwago.